Year 3, bit of a change for you guys today. So usually I'm doing humanities with you guys, but today I am doing some English. I'm with you for the next week and a half, doing some English for the Amber, Jade and Indigo group. So you've been working really hard with Miss Fernandez and I hope you've been having fun. But now I'm here and yeah, we're going to continue the amazing learning you've been doing. So I can't wait to see it. Mr. Loza and Miss Fernandez have told me all about the fantastic learning you've been doing and how you've been emailing in and everything like that. So I hope that still continues. So today it's very exciting. We are going to be starting a new topic for English and it's going to be about poetry. Now I love poetry and today's lesson is one of my favourite poems of all times that I did when I was back in year 3. So let's have a look, shall we? Let me get it ready. So press that one. So today is Wednesday the 3rd of June and we're doing poetry and we're doing it for Indigo, Amber and Jade groups. So if you're not one of those, probably head over to Mr. Loz's English video. But if you are one of those, stay here. Now, I know you haven't probably been using these signs with Miss Fernandez, but they're my signs. They're my little cool thing. So we have our pause button, the blue button. That means you might want to pause the video, make some notes, or go and get something, or do something. So if you see that on the screen, listen to what I say on the screen, and then pause the video. Most of the time I forget to tell you to pause, so you need to be eagle-eyed and watching that. The notepad and pencil, make some notes, answer some questions, you might need to write something down. And the little mouse button, I don't think we're using that today, but we might at some point use that. And that is you'll need to go on something like Purple Mash or go and find something on the internet. Make sure you have your adult's permission and help to find that just in case. Okay, so you know the signs by now. Today you don't need very much at all, so pause the video while you go and get these things. So you'll need a pencil or a pen, some paper to write in or a notebook, and you're going to need yourselves because there's a fun activity to do. Simple as, really. So pause the video while you go and find those things. So today's LI is that you can take meaning from a poem. You're going to understand what's happening in the poem. You're going to be able to perform a piece of poetry with meaning. And you're going to be able to answer questions based on a poem. We're going to be working really hard on one poem today. Tomorrow we're going to be doing something else to do with this poem, but I'll explain that later on. Pause the video, write down the LI, don't forget the date, it's Wednesday the 3rd of June today. We're going to be looking at this very famous poet. His name is Alan Alberg. And he has written a lot of poetry with his wife, Janet. I'm sure it's his wife. And they have written lots and lots of poetry. And most of it, I hope you will have already seen before. So we have The Jolly Postman. You might have heard of that. You might have heard of the book Please Mrs. Butler. It was one of my favourite books when I was a child. Maybe Each Peach Pear Plum. Maybe Peepo. Maybe Funny Bones. I love Funny Bones. Down the dark, dark street is a dark, dark house. And in the dark, dark house there is a dark, dark stairs. And in the dark, dark stairs there is a dark, dark cellar. Where 3 skeleton lives. One of my favourites. So really interesting, I've just done a little bit of research about Alan and Janet. So Janet tends to do a lot of the illustrations. That means she draws a lot of the pictures. And they are husband and wife and they met when they were at teacher training college. So they were becoming teachers. I absolutely love the work of Alan Alberg and I think we're going to have some great fun today looking at some of his poems. Actually, one of his poems, my favourite poem of all time. And we're going to be looking at the book Please Mrs. Butler. Oh, that won't work. There we go. So, this is the book. Now, what do you think we can see from the front cover of this book? What do you think? What clues can we see? What do you think it might be about? I can see a teacher having a coffee or a tea, maybe on break duty. I can see a dog being chased by some children. I can see a child being tickled, child doing a handstand, quite a few of them doing a handstand actually, laughing. It looks like they're at school. It looks like they're at playtime. And it looks like they're having a great time. Let's have a look at our poem today. So, this is our poem. I'm just going to move this bubble over there for now. Please, Mrs. Butler, this boy Derek Drew keeps copying my work, miss. What shall I do? Go and sit in the hall, dear. Go and sit in the sink. Take your books on the roof, my lamb. Do whatever you think. Please, Mrs. Butler, this boy Derek Drew keeps taking my rubber, miss. What shall I do? Keep it in your hand, dear. Hide it up your vest. Swallow it if you like, love. Do what you think best. Please, Mrs. Butler, this boy Derek Drew keeps calling me rude names, miss. What shall I do? Lock yourself in the cupboard, dear. Run away to sea. Do whatever you can, my flower, but don't ask me. Well, that's a bit of an interesting poem. One of my favourite poems. So we're going to actually go through the poem and see what we can find out while looking at it. What can we see that's really important? Well, there's two people in the poem, but those are the only two people that I've spoken about. But is there more than two people? So we've got, let me get my laser pointer. Oh, I might go for a blue laser pointer today. So Mrs. Butler is the teacher, right? And Derek Drew is one of the children. Do we think he's being well behaved? No, he's being a bit silly, isn't he? But are there only two characters in the story? Or this poem? No, that's right. There's the narrator, the person who is saying the poem. Because it's their work that Derek Drew is copying. It's their rubber that he's taken. So there's actually three characters in this poem. There's a lot of repetition in this poem too, isn't there? So you got Please, Mrs. Butler, and that's the beginning of every single, we'll call it like a chorus almost. And the narrator always asks what they should do. And through most of the poem, the teacher is being really nice and going, oh, it's all right. Take your things and go and sit somewhere else. Hold it. Look after the rubber. But then right at the end, it seems like she's not a very happy teacher at all. So as we see in the second part, it says, go and sit in the hall. Go and sit in the sink. Go, take your books on the roof. So the teacher's saying, go wherever. Just sit somewhere else if you're feeling frustrated. Do you see? The teacher also calls the narrator like little pet names, like my lamb. It's like a nice name. Then the second part of our poem, you've got the same repetition. Please, Mrs. Butler, this boy Derek Drew. And then what shall I do? That's the same as the first part. So this time, Derek Drew keeps taking the narrator's rubber. And Mrs. Butler is going, do you know what? Just look after it. Put it somewhere different. Just put it somewhere. He can't get hold of it. Okay? Don't worry about it. It's only a rubber. Do you think she was being serious when she told the narrator to swallow the rubber? No, of course not. It was just a bit silly because she's getting a bit fed up of all the questions and all the tattletelling. Again, the Mrs. Butler calls the narrator by a pet name, Love. And she says, do what you think best. And then finally, Derek Drew starts calling the narrator rude names. And again, we've got the please, Mrs. Butler, this boy, Derek Drew, and what shall I do? But this time, Mrs. Butler doesn't seem too happy. She's going, do you know what? Just lock yourself in the cupboard or run away to sea. Do whatever you can, but don't ask me. Now, why do you think she's saying don't ask me? Well, that's right. It could be because she's getting a bit fed up. Too many tales. You know, when we're at school and you guys used to tell me tales, I'm like, seriously guys, does it really matter? Did it happen on the playground? Maybe she's thinking that. Maybe she just wants to get on with some learning or go out to play or have a cup of tea. So yeah, Mrs. Butler just was like, do you know what? Just deal with it yourselves. We don't know how old the narrator is. We don't know how old Derek Drew is. It could be that they're 5 years old. It could be that they're 10. These things, if you're 5, are probably quite big things. But if you're 10, do you know what? Sort it out yourselves, right? Fantastic. So, you guys are going to do a little bit of performance. Because, you know, there's probably been a lot of writing down activities for you during learning. And I want you to get a bit active. So, I'm going to give you the first two verses of the poem, Please, Mrs. Butler, and you guys are going to act it out and perform it to your family at home. And I think you guys are going to be fantastic at this. Make sure you talk clearly. Make sure you really put that expression in. Yeah, be amazing. So, I'm going to do it for you, and then you can pause the video and go off and do it yourselves. Please, Mrs. Butler, this boy, Derek Drew, keeps copying my work, miss. What shall I do? Go and sit in the hall, dear. Go and sit in the sink. Take your books on the roof, my lamb. Do whatever you think. So that's my version. I think you guys can do much better, so pause the video and go and have some fun. Right, you're going to need, I didn't put it on here, I should have probably done that, your notepad and paper. Your notepad and paper is the same thing, right? Paper and pencil or pen, and we're going to do some questioning, okay? So let's have a look at our first question. Oh, look, I put the pictures here. Oh, I wasn't that silly. What is the name of the teacher in this poem? Repeat the question again. What is the name of the teacher in this poem? Pause the video and write down your answer. Well done if you said Mrs. Butler. Mrs. Butler is the teacher. We do say Mrs. Butler's name quite a lot. Well done if you got that answer right. Right. I'm just going to move this I'm not going to move this slightly. I'm going to get rid of this. I don't need the laser pointer anymore. There we go. So, you're going to list, so write down 2 things that Derek Drew has done. Now, he's only done things wrong, hasn't he? So, 2 things that he has done wrong. Pause the video while you write it down. Yeah, you could have said there's 2 of 3 things. So he keeps copying the narrator's work, he keeps taking the rubber, and he also keeps calling the narrator rude names. So there's 3 things to choose from. Well done if you got all 3 of them, or 2 of them. It's only asked for 2. But well done as well if you only got 1. Fantastic. So you're going to copy 2 lines that are repeated in this poem. Pause the video while you go and have a think. That's right. There was 3 options as well. So you could have said, please, Mrs. Butler. You could have said, this boy, Derek Drew. And you could have said, what shall I do? So there was 3 options. Why do you think the author has used the words "don't ask me" at the end of the poem? Pause the video while you write down your answer. That's right, we talked a lot about it, didn't we? The teacher was probably getting a bit fed up and a bit bored of all the tale telling, and probably wanted a cup of tea, and probably wanted to get on with some learning. So well done if you said something like that. Okay, this is a bit tricky, so you're going to need to use some knowledge. Find 2 proper nouns in the poem. Now, a proper noun is a name of a place, name of a person, or a day of the week. There's probably some more, but my brain not really thought about it. Pause the video while you have a think. That's right. Mrs. Butler and Derek drew a proper nouns. You can see because they have capital letters. Well done if you said that. Really impressed. Find 3 verbs in the poem. What are verbs? Verbs are action words or doing words. Sometimes they can be feeling words as well. So have a look for any doing words or action words in the poem. Pause the video. Wow, there's such a long list, and there's probably more, but these are just the ones I wrote down. So you could have said copying, shall, go, sit, take, think, taking, keep, hide, swallow, calling, lock, run, and ask. Now, if you think about it, you can do all of those words. So you can copy, you shall do something, you can go, you can sit, you can take, you can think, you can taking, you can keep, you can hide, you can swallow, you can call or calling, you can lock, you can run, and you can ask. Amazing if you got some of those. I'm really, really impressed. Now that is the end of today's work. I would love to see the work you've done today. I hope you've had some fun, Year 3. Tomorrow we are going to write our own version of Please Mrs. Butler. Okay, so I'm really, really excited to do that with you. I'm going to have to go and get started and start thinking about my poem today, so maybe you can come up with some ideas yourselves tonight. Have a lovely rest of your day. Yeah. It's getting a bit cooler, which is nice, and it's been lovely to see you all, and I can't wait to see not only your English work but your humanities as well. Bye, lovelies.